Episode 9.
Struggling to get your business online? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Small Business Puzzle Podcast. Now, here's your hosts, Michael and Teresa Blaze.
Welcome to the Small Business Puzzle Podcast. My name is Michael.
And I am Teresa.
And we are the Two Blind Marketers.
Hello there, Mike. How are you, sir?
I am doing good. How are you?
You know what? God's good. He's still on the throne. Everything else is negotiable.
Hey, you're still in my expressions again. That's not cool.
No, I just borrowed it. You can have it back.
Okay, well, we'll forgive you then.
So, Mike, we are here to do our Small Business Puzzle Podcast. What are we talking about today?
Well, before we do that, I have a couple of housekeeping issues I need to address. Number one, once again, and we sound like a broken record because we're saying this many times, but thank you so much for all the listens we've gotten and the reviews, and we could not do this without you.
Agreed.
I want to let you know we're over 700 downloads now. Man, oh man, 4 weeks ago I had no idea we were going to be at this point. So that is just flipping awesome.
That's just cool. And you know what? Thank you guys. We couldn't do it without you, and we're just going to continue to press on and do what we do best.
Absolutely. And the second thing is I don't want you to forget about the contest. That is our Name Our Tribe contest. We want you to help us name you guys. So you can go to sbppodcast.com/contest for that, so you can contribute. And we're giving away a 30-minute consult with us on Skype, and where we'll do a deep dive into your business and help you with any of the things that you might need. And sometimes just getting a fresh set of eyes on the situation will help.
Indeed.
And the second, we're giving you a $25 either Amazon or iTunes gift card.
Your choice.
Two of our favorite places to hang out.
Oh, yes, and we get in more trouble that way, don't we?
Yep.
Especially when it comes to Audible. Oh, boy. I mean, we just really get in trouble. So, you know what, guys? If you want something for free, hey, go enter the contest, and who knows, you might just win.
But is it truly free?
Forgive him. He knows not what he does.
Okay, so what are we going to talk about today, Teresa?
Well, we are talking about content, or the repurposing of content, and all the stuff that seems to go with it, and the importance of it to your business.
So let's start, as we usually do, with the Wikipedia definition. And this one is for web content, because when you look up content, it actually comes up with satisfaction. And while I'm satisfied when I create great content, that's not exactly the content that I'm talking about. So web content is the textual, visual, and oral content that is encountered as part of the user experience on websites. It may include, among other things, text, images, sound, videos, and animations.
And so to break that all down into layman's terms without the over theatrics from Mr. Mike over there, essentially what content is anytime you write a blog post, anytime you do a social media post, anytime you do a video, anytime you do a podcast, that is a form of content. And it is vitally crucial that you have one or more of these pieces in place. So, Mike, do you want to tell our users why they should be creating content?
Well, absolutely. First of all, creating content, having content under your name defines you as the expert.
Indeed. In fact, under a court of law, an expert is defined as someone who knows just a little bit more than the others within the room. And if that someone is you, guess what? You're an expert.
But I thought an expert was a drip under pressure. You'll have to forgive me, guys. I'm in a weird mood this morning.
Yes, I can tell.
Okay, it helps people engage with you.
Well, you're definitely engaging, aren't you?
People want to do business with those they know, like, and trust.
The question is, do we trust him?
She's not going to let me live this down, is she?
No, I'm not.
But seriously, people want to do business with those they know, like, and trust.
And how are they going to know, like, and trust you if you are putting out quality, fresh content?
Exactly. So, and a third thing is search engines love relevant content and will reward you by sending traffic to your website.
Now, let's quantify this. They don't want you to just piecemeal something together, and they don't want a web page that's, static and isn't updated. No. They want sites that are quality, that are relevant, and updated. You give them that, and the search engines will gobble it up and reward you. I mean, you'll be feeding them a meal of content, and they'll be devouring it, and then returning you the favor of, okay, we'll give you a few rankings.
It's funny because we used to call them search engine spiders. They're called spiders or bots. So, you feed the spiders, you feed the bots, you make them happy. They come back regularly, and they give you better rankings in the search engines. So let's discuss what common factors you need to consider when creating web content. First of all, it needs to be useful.
Now, useful can be defined differently depending on who's listening. But, if you know something about how to clean out an air conditioner, but they don't, guess what? Post a video. Post a blog post. Do something useful. Maybe you know something about, how to clean out the computer that they don't know. Hey, post it. Post it, and your market will be thankful for it because you know what? They didn't have an answer, and now they do.
Exactly. Entertaining is another factor, and what we mean by entertaining is something that's going to be interesting to your audience. Something, maybe it makes them laugh. I'll give you a good example of that. A few years ago, when we first started working with our computer repair client, he had a logo. He was, if you've been around computers at all, and you have to remember the duck with the hammer smashing the computer. That was his logo. And we, thank God, were able to modify it and bring it into the semi-21st century. But what we did is I was having some fun with him and trying to get him to change it at the same time. So I took his logo and laid it sideways and drew ropes around it and hung it over a spit. And I put a tagline underneath, roast duck, to kind of have some fun with him and his audience. And I put it up, and I asked his audience if they liked the new logo, just to see what kind of thought-provoking we could get out of them, what kind of comments we could get out of them.
Oh, did we get some comments?
It was pretty funny. Most of them got it. Some of them didn't. Another one time we did an entertaining post was, and this is totally just random. We did something. It was not a hoax. It was kind of a
April Fool's joke?
spoof. Yeah, it was an April Fool's joke. We called it the Easter egg virus. No, I'm sorry, the Easter bunny virus. And here's the funny thing. We wrote that post probably 5 years ago, and we are still ranked for Easter bunny virus. I guess there's not too many people writing on that topic. Next one is
when hang on a second. When you talk about entertaining, it doesn't have to be funny or whatever. I mean, I think about another example that I've seen online, the Will It Blend series. Okay, essentially what this company did, they're trying to advertise their blender. So what they did is they said, you know what, we're gonna see if stuff will blend. We're gonna put an iPhone in a blender and see if it'll blend.
I remember that.
I don't remember everything else that they would do, and they probably still exist. But you know what? It was funny. I used to watch it. Not that I wanted the blender. I just thought it was funny. Gary Vaynerchuk, he used to run a winery. Okay?
A liquor store, actually.
Yeah, a liquor store. Well, he got on YouTube and started taste testing wines. He'd give it a sniffy sniff and, do all these weird things. But he built a tribe around that. They expected his shows. And guess what? He was entertaining me. I don't know a thing about wine. I probably don't want to know a thing about wine. But you know what? I found him funny. That's the point. Do something that will relate to your audience. You know what? Maybe they don't know you right away, but maybe they can get a chuckle out of you.
They need to know that you're engaging and that you have a sense of humor.
Indeed. Another example is the Daily Tech News Show. They are, they don't run on advertising, they run on the supporters. Well, what's happened is people come up with these little funny, entertaining intros like this, to be Queen appropriate, funny, entertaining intros that tell other listeners, you know what, I support the show and you should too. I mean, and you just listen and you kind of laugh like, oh, wow, okay. And people just started sending this in randomly. Why? Because they liked what he's providing.
And that's what happens when you engage with your audience, and that's what he's doing, is engaging with his audience.
Yeah, and I mean, he's built himself quite an income because of it, So...
What about Dan Miller?
Oh, Dan Miller, he's another good one.
48days.com.
He, essentially, what he does is he is kind of more laid back, but his style, he answers their questions. He is engaging, people comment on stuff. I mean, it's just...
And he provokes a lot of thought, too, I think.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, Mike, how else can you make your content unique?
Well, thought-provoking was the next one, which we kind of discussed.
Thought-provoking. Well, regarding that, I listen to a few political shows. Why? Because I want to think. I'll sometimes listen to 5 Minutes in Church History, which is another podcast. Can you tell I'm a podcast consumer? Anyway.
Podcast content vacuum. Yep.
Anyway,
you'll have to forgive me, guys. I have some fun with her on this one because what she does is she listens. God, I don't know how many podcasts she has in her on her phone, but she consumes them at over 2 times the speed. Sometimes
3 times, depending on the podcast.
Yeah, like I said, she's a content vacuum. So if one day you run around and you find no content, you know who to blame. Anyway.
Oh, hush. You just hush.
Okay. Next one is relevant to your audience.
Relevant to the audience. Well, I want to follow the tech news. I want to follow the political news. So I have podcasts that I listen to almost daily to keep up with that. And yes, I'm a sports fanatic. Well, maybe fanatic isn't the right word, but I do like my Cardinals. So I do listen to podcasts in that arena. But you know what? it's all relevant to what I like, and it's all current.
Right. So, and this is where, again, we talked about Avatar and, how important it was to develop your avatar in episode 1. And this is, when you know what your audience is going to know and what they're going to want, then it's a lot easier for you to create content for them.
Agreed.
And, you want content that is, sometimes you want content that's controversial.
Ooh, controversial. Does that mean you have to write stuff that everybody will agree with you on?
No. And that's the beauty of it. You're a thought leader. You're an expert. You have the right to share your opinion. And some people are going to like it and some won't. Okay. But as long as you do it respectfully, they're going to, they're going to give you your platform.
Case in point, on my blog on TeresaBlaze.com, I wrote a piece about the Apple versus FBI debate. Will everybody agree with me? No. But I've stated my opinion, and I linked to articles portraying both sides of the issue.
Right. And finally, emotional. Something that evokes an emotion. And who's particularly good at that one is ACLJ.
Oh, yes. American Center for Law and Justice.
ACLJ.org. They get into some pretty hot topics, and whether you're a Christian or not is not the point. It's the idea of evoking that emotion, and they're exceptionally good at it.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, whether you're liberal, conservative, right, left, Christian, non-Christian, it doesn't matter. The point is, can you find a way to evoke an emotion within your audience based on the content you write? Now, not every piece of content has to incorporate every single one of these elements. No, they don't. Maybe one or two. Okay,
right.
But this is just like a checklist that you can have that, okay, does my content do this? Does my content do this? Does my content do this? If you could check, one or two or three, you know what? You're doing good.
Yeah, another example of entertaining content that I wanted to tell you guys about was a video that we created, and it was based around the Star Trek theme. And we used, I don't remember what service we used. It was one of the animation, that lets you create online comics. And we created this video that, there's something wrong with the Enterprise. Well, let's call this computer repair company to come up and fix the Enterprise, and we used our client as the company.
And you know what? We got good results out of that.
Yeah, we did. So it's that kind of thing that you want. Things that will brand you as an expert, make you a real person. You want to make sure they know you are a real person and not just a company.
Now, there is a place for branding as a company.
Absolutely.
Okay? But
on the company website.
Yeah. If you, hey.
If you go to twoblindmarketers.com, you will see that, we're not talking so much about Teresa's and my situation or our life. We're talking about the company and the needs of our clients. So let's go on to how to get great web content ideas.
How to get great web content ideas. Well, I could think of a couple ways. One, check your social media feed. You can look through Twitter and Facebook and maybe LinkedIn if you're on there, maybe Medium, YouTube, Snapchat. Look for ideas. Look for things that are being posted around your industry.
Okay, so you want to think about your audience or your customers.
You want to think about them and, what would they enjoy? What would benefit them?
What questions do you think they have?
What questions should they have?
In other words, what questions do you wish that they would ask you before they engage in your service? And what questions do you get most often?
What is their biggest pain point?
And finally, what do you think they would find entertaining or interesting?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of different ways you can source content. Really, I mean, one of the ways that I find I do it is, you'll find me on Twitter, and I will post things. Now, keep in mind, not everything is about business that I post on Twitter. That's kind of my personal outlet. So I'll post stuff about business, but I'll also post stuff about my personal beliefs. Why? If someone doesn't want to follow me, that's okay. They don't have to. I know who I am, and but the point being, I am trying to post stuff that I find relevant and useful to my audience.
So now another thing is it doesn't necessarily have to be your content.
No, not at all. You can, if you find, say, an article about X topic, whatever that topic is, you could read it and go, this is good. Okay, I'm going to post it over here. I'm going to write a little intro and, kind of write what I think about it, whether I agree or disagree. And then I'm going to put a link back to that article on my website.
Right.
It doesn't have to be all your stuff. Now, you can always, comment about it, but it doesn't have to be your stuff.
Exactly. And you don't necessarily have to agree with the content that you're posting. You can take a contrary stance. So, well, this author believes this, but I really don't believe this, and this is why.
Agreed. I've seen that quite often.
The important thing is that you keep your audience in mind.
What's another way? You could ask someone to guest post for you, or become a guest member on your podcast if you're doing one.
Yeah, and that's a good spot because, they're going to promote you.
Oh, yeah.
So, when we say it doesn't necessarily have to be your own, and, we've already talked about attribution, in other words, letting people know where you found the information. But you can also, there are 3 other places you could look, okay, there's Google Alerts, which we've talked about before, but what you want to do is take your main keywords for your business. For example, for our computer repair, it might be virus removal service. And we target that keyword, and that way any time someone posts something with that keyword, we get an alert with that information so that we can take action on that content. We can post it, we can retweet it, we can create an article about it, whatever, okay? And then what you can do is you can take those, when you find relevant blogs and websites that have a feed, you can use a feed reader like Feedly, and that's feed.ly, to store those feeds. And when you're looking for content ideas, you can go into your feed reader and find relevant articles, etc., that you can post.
I do that all the time. I honestly do. Sometimes I'll use my phone to kind of scan content. Sometimes I will, use my computer. But I will find content based on whatever.
Okay, so I wanted to give a couple of examples of contrary content and where you agree with it. So what you might say is, here's an article on X, I disagree with it, and here's why. Or here's a great article on Y, I agree with it, and here's a few more relevant points about how to implement it. So there's a couple of examples. Mm-hmm. Now, let's go on to your own web content. We talked about using other people's content. Now we're going to talk about you creating your own. I would say, as a business owner, your most important content is the content that you create that are questions, the question list, those 3 areas. What you think your customers would want to know, what you wish they knew, and what questions you're asked most often. And what you want to do is you want to take those questions and you want to create content of all different kinds, not just written, but I mean, there's a ton of stuff you can do. Like, let's say that I use the computer repair a lot because that's one that's one of our biggest clients. But let's say you want to ask a question, you get a question a lot. Well, what happens if, and
let's say you're a lawyer,
let's use lawyer.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
You're a family law lawyer, okay? Well, let's say someone asks you a question around law, okay? All you have to do is answer the question.
But answer it. You can answer it in a screen share video. Create a little PowerPoint and share that screen and create a video. Or you could use your webcam or your phone. That's pretty powerful too.
Mm-hmm. What if you were to take that question, put it up on Snapchat, and then answer it? And Snapchat is one of the hottest social media properties. Granted, it's not accessible to blind users, but that's a different story. But
you could do like what we're doing right now, creating audio.
Oh yeah, you could do audio. You could do a podcast. You could get on Clamor. You could use Anchor. I mean, there are so many different ways you could do audio.
So you could create articles, of course. That's probably the most common.
You could use images. You could take that question and put it on an image and then answer it.
Agreed.
You could take let's say you put it in PowerPoint, the video or whatever. So let's say you do a situation where I'm going to answer it in video, and then you could take those same slides that you just created and put them up on places like SlideShare. People search that stuff. And, oh, by the way, it gets indexed in Google.
Exactly. It really is limited by by your creativity and your imagination. And this is the fun part of marketing. Have fun with it. It doesn't have to be all boring and tedious.
If you enjoy what you do, it'll come out in your content.
Exactly. So don't think of and this is important, don't ever think of your content as just a single piece.
No.
Most of your content, not all of it. I mean, for example, if you're talking about Windows 10 years from now, that wouldn't exactly be relevant because Windows 10 would be a dinosaur. But most content, for example, how to clean your fans, that's probably not going to change. That would be more of an evergreen type content. Or in the family law situation, a question about divorce, that will probably be evergreen content, even if the law changes.
Or if you're an automotive expert, how you change oil.
Exactly.
I mean...
And you can repurpose it. You can take that same content, then this is what we're doing. We're actually doing a little bit of an experiment. I'm creating something called SBP Shorts, Small Business Puzzle Shorts. And what I'm doing is taking a quote and I'm marrying that up with a PowerPoint and creating a video with it. And we're going to be posting those on YouTube. And if you want to check those out, those will be on our YouTube channel, but they'll be posted on Facebook. So as we announce a new one, you'll see the announcement. But that's what we're doing. I've got one done so far, and I'm gonna do them with more because I think it's kind of a fun way to drive traffic to the podcast.
I think they get the point, though, Mike. I think, right now, the choice in what you do with your content is up to you. Just
Agreed.
Don't leave it in one, don't ever just have one form of content and expect that to be enough.
And the other thing is, on your website, make sure that you are using more than one type of content, not just the textual content, but include an image and a video if you can find one that's relevant. So that's pretty important, and that's good for the search engines too.
So
Now, let's talk about sharing content. Now, this is critical. You can create all the content in the world, but once you've got it created, you need to share it. And the biggest suggestion I have, and I know Therese probably has a bunch, but it is to make sure you've got share buttons in place on your website, so that somebody can come to them and share your content.
Indeed, and I mean, you can go on and go to Twitter. I'm finding Twitter to be my place to hang out. Okay, that's kind of my spot. That's how I like to engage with content. Mostly, is Twitter. I go on there and I will share, once everything is ready, I will share the link to this podcast. I will also, I'll go on Facebook and I'll do the same thing. Mm-hmm. You can bookmark it. I mean, there's so many different ways, And let's say you are having a guest post on your blog, or you're doing a guest interview on your podcast. Ask them to share. If it doesn't have to be all about you. It really doesn't. In fact, it's better if it's not all you.
Right.
Because you only have so much time and so much bandwidth. It's better if you can leverage the context that you've created. For example, if your customers like your content, ask them to share it.
Agreed.
I do it all the time. And I'm sharing other people's stuff as well, especially if I think it's good stuff.
So moving on, let's talk about what we call a call to action. You want to make sure you have a strong call to action on each piece of content. And some examples, leave a comment. That was one we used to use with the Mandy's Story blog. When we would finish a post, hey, leave a comment or a prayer request. If you like this, and this is another one, if you like this, and you see this a lot on Facebook, then click the like button. Or on their website, it might say, hey, if you like this, share it. And there will be a share button for you to click.
And you know what? Here's the thing. People will not do it if they are not, unless they're asked. Most of the time, they won't do it unless they're asked. Why? Because they don't think about it. Maybe they're just kind of skimming through and they're not, oh, okay, that's good. But unless you actually take the time to ask them to do something, they likely won't do it.
Agreed. And you could also ask them to fill out a form. If you're trying to, to receive your tip sheet on whatever topic you happen to be talking about, or download this white paper that you just created for this purpose. Another call to action, and we use this one a lot, is rate and review. In other words, please rate us, please review us, because that's how we're going to get more listens. That's kind of exclusive to podcasts, but you get the idea.
Yeah, I mean, the point is you want to get engagement, and the only way to get engagement is to have a strong call to action.
So let's go ahead and wrap this up, Therese.
Indeed.
In order to be successful in your own marketing online, you must have content. I think we've made that point pretty clear, and we've given you some suggestions on how to make that work. But we want you to be successful at this. So what we've done is created a guide on how to get started creating content. And there will be a link below the show notes on this page, sbppodcast.com/9. And you can click the link below the show notes and get our guide. And finally, we need feedback, guys. We're getting lots of reviews, but we're not getting any comments on the website itself. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them as a comment below the show notes. Or if you don't really want to leave a textual comment, love that word, then you can leave us a voice message or an oral comment.
Yeah. What he said.
So, in other words, an audio comment, if you choose. So, we really want to know what you guys think. If this is helpful to you, if you're using what we're suggesting and it's making an impact, we want to know.
And we want to know what you guys want to know about. We our goal is to make content that you want to consume.
Right. Because we can come up with stuff all day out of our own heads, but if it's not going to be useful to you, why do it?
So, we're going to continue doing what we need to do, but it would be better if we knew what you guys want. So, with that, leave us some feedback. Go ahead and give us a rating review if you think this is quality stuff. And I think with that, and don't forget, we do have the contest.
Yeah, so, don't forget the contest.
So, I do. I think with that, I think we're out.
You've been listening to the Small Business Puzzle Podcast. I'm Michael.
And I'm Teresa.
Have a great day.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Small Business Puzzle Podcast. To catch all our past shows, visit sbppodcast.com.